Captain Vexithara stood on the bridge of her warship, watching another world burn below. The flames looked beautiful from space, orange and red dancing across what used to be cities full of life. Her razor-sharp claws clicked against the metal, railing as she smiled. This was her favorite part of the hunt. "How many this time?" she asked her second-in-command. 3 billion, Captain. Maybe more. The small ones tried to hide in their underground tunnels, but we found them all." Vexithara nodded with satisfaction. The Kethvar were perfect killers. They had ruled the outer edge of the galaxy for thousands of years, and no species had ever stopped them. Why would they? The Kethvar could do something no other creature could. They could slip between dimensions like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will. One moment they were there, the next they were gone, only to reappear behind their prey with claws ready. She walked through the ship's dark corridors, her long body moving with the grace of a predator who had never known fear. The other Kethvar warriors bowed their heads as she passed. They all knew her reputation. Captain Vexithara had personally claimed over 300 worlds. Entire civilizations had fallen to her hunting packs. "Captain," called out one of her scouts, running up to her with excitement. "We've found something interesting." Vexithara stopped and turned. The young scout's eyes were bright with the thrill of discovery. "Show me," she said. They walked to the navigation room where a massive holographic display showed star charts. The scout pointed to a small, unremarkable solar system on the edge of the map. "There, Captain, that yellow star with the 9 planets." "What's special about it?" Vexithara asked, studying the display. "The 3rd planet from the star. It's covered in water and has one large moon. Our sensors picked up something we've never seen before." The image zoomed in on a blue and green planet. It looked peaceful, almost beautiful, with white clouds swirling around it. "The energy signatures are strange, Captain. This world has over 7 billion life forms living on it, but they're not spread out like most civilizations. They're clustered together in massive groups, thousands of settlements, big and small." Vexthara's eyes gleamed. 7 billion. That was more prey than she had taken in her last 50 hunts combined. "What else do we know about them?" "They call themselves humans, Captain. They're primitive, still using chemical rockets to barely reach their own moon. No energy shields, no plasma weapons, no dimensional technology. They fight with metal projectiles and explosive devices." The other Kethvar in the room began to laugh. Metal projectiles? How could such backward creatures even survive in a dangerous galaxy? "They won't even see us coming," said her Lieutenant Zekmor. "We could take that world in a single day." But Vexthara held up a claw for silence. She had learned never to underestimate prey, no matter how weak they seemed. "Tell me more about their behavior." The scout activated another display. "They're pack hunters, Captain, but strange ones. They don't just hunt for food, they hunt for sport, for territory, for ideas. They've covered their entire planet with settlements and have changed the world itself to suit their needs." "Interesting," Vexithara murmured. "And they've never encountered other species?" "No, Captain. They seem to believe they're alone in the universe. They've been fighting each other for thousands of years, creating better and better weapons. But compared to galactic technology, they might as well be using sticks and stones." Vexithara walked around the holographic Earth, studying it from all angles. Something about this world intrigued her. Most species they hunted lived simple lives. They had technology, but they used it for peace, for building, for art. These humans seemed different. They had covered their world with weapons and armies, as if they were always ready for war. "Captain," Zekmor said carefully, "perhaps we should call in more hunting packs for this one. 7 billion is a large number, even for primitive prey." Vexithara turned to look at him with amusement. "Are you afraid of creatures who haven't even learned to travel between stars?" "No, Captain, but the numbers mean nothing," she finished. "Numbers never matter when you're hunting sheep. And that's all these humans are, sheep who have learned to make loud noises." She turned back to the display, already planning the hunt. The humans had built their settlements close together, making them perfect targets. They had no shields, no way to detect Kethvar ships until it was too late. "It would be like hunting fish in a barrel. Prepare the hunting packs," she commanded. "All 12 fleets. I want this to be a hunt our people remember for generations." The scout looked confused. "All 12 fleets, Captain? For primitive prey?" Vex Thara's smile showed rows of sharp teeth. 7 billion trophies deserve a proper celebration. Besides, I've grown bored with easy hunts. These humans have been fighting each other for millennia. Let's see how they handle real predators." As her ship turned toward the small blue planet, Vexithara felt the familiar excitement of a new hunt beginning. Soon, those 7 billion humans would learn what it meant to be prey in a galaxy full of hunters. She had no idea that some prey fight back. The first ships appeared over Seoul just as the morning sun painted the sky orange. Lieutenant Jiho Kim was drinking his coffee on the army base when the shadows fell across the ground, shadows that shouldn't exist with a clear sky above. He looked up and nearly dropped his cup. Massive dark shapes floated silently in the air like storm clouds, but these clouds had angles and edges that hurt to look at. They seemed to bend the light around them in ways that made his eyes water. "This is not a drill," came the announcement, over the base speakers. "All personnel to battle stations immediately." Within minutes, the base erupted into chaos. Soldiers ran in every direction, grabbing weapons and shouting orders. Jets screamed overhead, racing toward the alien ships. Jiho watched as missiles streaked through the air, their trails like white lines against the blue sky. Then something impossible happened. The missiles passed right through the ships, as if they weren't there at all. "What the hell?" muttered Sergeant Minho Park, standing next to Jiho with binoculars pressed to his eyes. Did you see that? The missiles just went through them like they were ghosts." Before Jiho could answer, something dropped from the ships. At first they looked like black dots, but as they got closer he could see they were creatures, tall, thin, things with too many joints in their arms and legs. They fell toward the ground but didn't crash. Instead they seemed to fade in and out of existence, sometimes solid, sometimes like smoke. The first one landed in the middle of the base courtyard. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with grey skin that seemed to shimmer and move. Its arms were longer than any human's, ending in claws that looked like they could cut through steel. But the worst part was its face, or what should have been a face. Instead, there was just a smooth surface with 2 black holes where eyes might be. "Open fire!" screamed Captain Hyunwoo from across the courtyard. The soldiers didn't hesitate. Automatic rifles chattered, sending hundreds of bullets toward the creature. But just like the missiles, the bullets passed right through it as if it was made of air. The creature tilted its head, almost like it was curious about the noise. Then it became solid again and moved. Jiho had never seen anything move so fast. 1 second the creature was 20 feet away. The next it was standing right in front of Private Do-hyun, its claws already in motion. The young soldier didn't even have time to scream. "Fall back!" Hyunwoo yelled, but there was nowhere to go. More creatures were landing all around them, appearing and disappearing like deadly magic tricks. Every time the soldiers fired, their bullets did nothing. Every time the creatures attacked, men died. Jiho grabbed Minho's arm and pulled him toward the command bunker. "We need to get underground." They ran through the chaos as alien claws sliced through concrete walls like paper. Behind them, Jiho could hear the screams of his fellow soldiers and the terrible sound of metal being torn apart. The creatures weren't just killing. They were hunting, taking their time, playing with their prey. In the bunker beneath the base, Dr. Yoonji Lee was frantically working at a computer terminal. She was a civilian scientist who had been visiting the base to test new communication equipment, but now she was their only hope of understanding what was happening. "Doctor!" Jiho called out as he and Minho tumbled down the stairs. "What are those things?" "I don't know," she replied without looking up from her screen, "but I'm trying to figure out why our weapons won't work on them." On her monitors, she could see feeds from security cameras all over the base. The creatures moved through the images like ghosts, appearing solid just long enough to attack before fading away again. But something had caught her attention. "Look at this," she said, pointing to one screen. "Camera 12 near the generator building." On the screen, they could see one of the creatures approaching a soldier who was trapped behind an overturned truck. Just as the alien became solid to attack, something sparked in the background. The base's main power generator had been damaged and was throwing off electrical discharges. The creature stumbled. For just a moment, it became solid when it didn't want to be. The soldier's bullets actually hit it, and dark liquid splattered across the ground. The creature let out a sound like metal scraping against stone and quickly disappeared. "Did you see that?" Yunji asked, rewinding the footage. "The generator," Minho whispered. "The electrical discharge, it did something to that thing." Yunji's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up more camera feeds. "There," she pointed to another screen. "Look at camera 7 near the radio tower." Another creature was hunting a group of soldiers when lightning from a damaged power line struck near it. Again, the aliens stumbled, becoming solid at the wrong moment. This time the soldiers managed to wound it before it could phase away. "Electromagnetic interference," Yunji said, her voice filled with excitement. "That's their weakness. They can't control their phasing ability when there's strong electromagnetic activity nearby." Jiho grabbed the radio. "All units, this is Lieutenant Kim. Target the power lines and generators near the enemy. Create as much electrical interference as possible." Within minutes, explosions lit up the base as soldiers deliberately destroyed their own equipment, creating electromagnetic chaos. Sparks flew everywhere, and the air itself seemed to crackle with energy. And for the first time since the attack began, the creatures looked uncertain. One alien tried to phase through a wall near a damaged transformer, but the electromagnetic field forced it to become solid halfway through. It was stuck, half in and half out of the concrete. Private Soyon didn't waste the chance. Her rifle found its mark and the creature fell. Across the base, other soldiers were learning fast. They stopped trying to shoot the creatures directly and started targeting anything that produced electricity. The aliens' perfect hunting technique was failing them. From orbit, Captain Vexisthara watched the battle with growing confusion. Her warriors should have finished this hunt in minutes, but something was wrong. The prey had discovered something, a weakness she didn't even know her people had. For the first time in centuries, Kethvar warriors were dying, and the humans were just getting started. 3 weeks had passed since the first attack, and the world had changed forever. In a secret underground facility beneath the mountains of Colorado, engineer Jiwoo hadn't slept in 4 days. Her eyes were bloodshot, her hands shaking from too much coffee, but she couldn't stop working. Not when humanity's survival depended on what she was building. "Hand me that wire," she said to her assistant, not looking up from the complex device. On the workbench, it looked like someone had torn apart 10 different machines and welded them together in ways that shouldn't work. But it did work, and that's all that mattered. The device hummed with electric energy, creating a field that could disrupt the aliens' phasing abilities. It was crude compared to their technology, but humans had always been good at making weapons out of whatever they could find. "How many can we build?" asked Colonel Hyunwoo, who had been promoted after his heroic defense of the Seoul base. "With the materials we have?" "Maybe 50, Jiwoo replied, wiping sweat from her forehead. "But each one can cover about a city block. If we place them right, we can create killing zones," Hyunwoo finished, "places where those things can't disappear when we shoot them." Around the world, similar scenes were playing out. In Tokyo, scientists were reverse engineering pieces of alien technology recovered from crashed ships. In London, military engineers were building electromagnetic weapons from car batteries and radio parts. In New York, computer programmers were creating a global network to share information instantly between resistance cells. Humanity had done something the aliens never expected. They had adapted. In just 3 weeks, a species that had never seen advanced technology was building weapons specifically designed to kill interdimensional hunters. The first major test came in the ruins of Tokyo. The city had been hit hard in the initial attacks, with millions dead or missing. But the survivors had gone underground, literally. They had turned the subway tunnels into a fortress with electromagnetic traps hidden around every corner. Private Soyon crouched in the darkness of Shibuya Station, holding one of the new weapons. It looked like a rifle crossed with a lightning rod, crackling with barely controlled energy. Around her, 24 other soldiers waited in silence. Above them, they could hear the aliens hunting through the destroyed streets. "Remember," whispered Sergeant Minho through her earpiece, "wait until they're fully solid before you fire. And whatever happens, don't let them retreat back into phase mode." The first alien dropped through a hole in the ceiling, its long limbs folding as it landed gracefully on the platform. It stood still for a moment, probably listening for prey. That's when Soyeon saw something that made her blood freeze. This creature was carrying weapons it had taken from dead human soldiers. It was learning too. The alien began to phase, becoming translucent as it prepared to hunt through the tunnels, but as soon as it started moving, hidden electromagnetic generators throughout the station activated. The air filled with an electric buzz and the creature stumbled, forced back into solid form. "Now!" Minho shouted. 24 rifles fired at once. The alien tried to phase away, but the electromagnetic field held it solid. Dark liquid splattered across the platform as the creature fell. It was the first clean kill humans had made since the war began. But there was no time to celebrate. More aliens were dropping through the holes, and these ones looked different, bigger, with thicker armor and more weapons. They had adapted too, the POS. Battle that followed lasted 6 hours. Humans died, but so did aliens. For every soldier that fell, they took one of the creatures with them. The subway tunnels echoed with gunfire, alien screams, and the constant buzz of electromagnetic weapons. When the sun rose over Tokyo's ruins, Private Soyeon was still alive. She sat among the bodies of friends and enemies, her weapons smoking in her hands. Around her, the other survivors were checking casualties and counting alien corpses. 17, said Minho, his voice filled with wonder. We killed 17 of them. It didn't sound like much, but it was everything. For 3 weeks, the aliens had seemed invincible. Now humanity had proven they could be killed. Word spread around the globe through encrypted communications. The resistance cells in every major city received the same message. We know how to fight them now. In the Atlantic Ocean, Navy Commander Yuna was leading the first human naval assault on an alien ship that had landed on the water's surface. Her destroyer had been retrofitted with electromagnetic cannons, built from subway railguns and hospital MRI machines. It was insane, but it worked. "Fire everything we have," she ordered as her ship approached the alien vessel. The electromagnetic barrage hit the alien ship like invisible hammers. Suddenly, parts of the ship that had been phased became solid, creating weak points in the hull. Human missiles, which had been useless before, now found their targets. The alien ship began to list and take on water. Through her binoculars, Yuna could see the creatures inside scrambling to repair the damage. They looked panicked, an emotion she never thought she'd see from the perfect hunters. On the other side of the world, in the Australian outback, Corporal Kyung was leading a group of Aboriginal hunters who had volunteered to fight. They had taken their traditional tracking skills and combined them with electromagnetic traps to hunt the aliens through the desert. The creatures could phase between dimensions, but they still left footprints in the sand. "They're not ghosts," Kyung explained to his team as they followed alien tracks toward a cave system. "They're just animals with a trick, and every trick has a counter-trick." The humans had set up electromagnetic generators powered by solar panels around the cave entrances. When the aliens tried to escape through the rock walls, they found themselves trapped in solid form, easy targets for human weapons. But the most important change wasn't in the weapons or tactics. It was in the humans themselves. 3 weeks ago, they had been prey, running and hiding from superior predators. Now, they were hunters. Captain Vexithara watched the reports from her orbiting command ship with growing alarm. Her perfect warriors, who had conquered 300 worlds, were dying to primitive creatures armed with crude electromagnetic weapons. Worse, the humans were getting better at killing her people every day. "Perhaps we should withdraw, Captain," suggested her lieutenant. "Zekmor, find easier prey elsewhere." But Vexithara's pride wouldn't allow retreat. She had never lost a hunt before, and she wouldn't start now. What she didn't understand was that the humans weren't just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to win. Admiral Ji-yeon stood on the bridge of humanity's first captured alien warship, watching Earth grow smaller through the massive viewing window. 6 months ago, she had been commanding a simple aircraft carrier. Now she was leading humanity's first space fleet, built from a mixture of human engineering and stolen alien technology. "Status report," she called out to her crew. "All systems. Green, Admiral," replied her engineering officer. "The hybrid engines are running perfectly. We're tracking 3 alien ships heading toward the asteroid belt. Jion smiled grimly. The tables had turned completely. Instead of hiding on Earth while aliens hunted them, humans were now chasing the hunters across the solar system. It had taken enormous sacrifice to get here, but they had learned something important. The HFY weren't invincible. They were just bullies who had never faced real resistance. The breakthrough had come when Captain Yuna's team successfully boarded a damaged alien ship near Mars. The boarding action had been brutal, with half her Marines dying in the process, but they had captured the ship intact. More importantly, they had captured its technology. "Target acquired," announced the weapons officer. "Alien vessel bearing 270, distance 4,000 kilometers. Lock electromagnetic disruptors on target," Jion ordered. "Fire." When ready, the human-built weapons charged up with a sound like thunder. These weren't the crude electromagnetic generators they had used in the early days of the war. These were purpose-built alien hunters, designed specifically to disrupt HFY phasing technology. The beams struck the alien ship's hull, and immediately parts of it became solid that were supposed to be phased. The vessel shuddered as its own technology turned against it. Through the viewing screens, Jion could see the panic on the alien bridge as systems failed throughout their ship. "Launch boarding pods," she commanded. 3 small craft detached from the human ship and streaked toward the disabled alien vessel. Inside each pod, teams of specially trained soldiers prepared for close combat. These weren't regular troops. They were alien hunters, humans who had spent months learning how to fight the HFY in their own ships. Team leader Captain Yuna checked her weapon one final time. It was a hybrid device that combined human projectile technology with alien energy systems. The bullets were coated with electromagnetic material that would disrupt alien phasing even on impact. "Remember," she told her team as their pod punched through the alien hull, "they're fast and they can phase, but they're not used to being hunted. Use that fear against them." The boarding action was swift and brutal. The aliens tried to use their traditional tactics, appearing behind enemies, phasing through walls, using their superior speed and claws. But the humans had spent months preparing for exactly this kind of fight. When an alien tried to phase through a wall to flank them, Sergeant Minho was waiting with an electromagnetic net that forced the creature solid right in the middle of the metal barrier. When another tried to appear behind the human formation, Private Dohyun's motion sensors detected it, and his team spun around with weapons ready. "They're not adapting fast enough," Yuna observed, as her team cleared another section of the ship. "They've been apex predators for so long they don't know how to be prey." The alien crew fought desperately, but they were outmatched. Humans had spent their entire evolutionary history being hunted by larger, stronger predators. They knew how to think like prey, which meant they also knew how to think like hunters. In the ship's engine room, Corporal Kyung found something that made him call for backup immediately. 3 HFY warriors had barricaded themselves behind their own equipment, using parts of their ship as cover. But they looked different from the others, smaller, more scared. "I think these are younglings," he reported over his radio. "They're not even trying to fight, they're just hiding." It was the first time humans had encountered young aliens. For a moment, Kyung hesitated. These creatures were responsible for billions of human deaths, but seeing them cowering behind machinery made them seem less like monsters and more like children. "Orders, sir?" he asked Captain Yuna. There was a long pause before she responded. "Take them alive. We need prisoners for intelligence." The capture of living aliens marked another turning point in the war. For the first time, humans could interrogate their enemies directly. What they learned changed everything. The young HFY, when properly motivated, revealed that their species had never encountered organized resistance before. Every other civilization had either submitted immediately or been wiped out within days. The humans were the first prey species to fight back effectively, and it was causing panic throughout the HFY hierarchy. "They're requesting reinforcements from their homeworld," translated Dr. Yunji, who had learned to communicate with the prisoners, "but their commanders are refusing. They think this is just a local problem that will be resolved soon." Commander Tae-hyun, now leading Earth's orbital defense fleet, listened to the translation with interest. "How soon before they realize we're a real threat?" "Unknown," Yunji replied. But according to our prisoners, some Kethvar commanders are already suggesting they abandon this hunting ground entirely. That news spread through the human fleet like wildfire. The aliens, the perfect predators who had terrorized the galaxy for millennia, were considering running away from humans. But Captain Vexithara wasn't ready to run. From her command ship hiding behind Jupiter's moons, she watched the reports of human victories with growing rage. Her warriors were being picked off one by creatures that should have been dead weeks ago. "Captain," her Lieutenant Zekmore said carefully, "perhaps it's time to consider strategic withdrawal. These humans are not like other prey species." Vexithara's claws scraped against her command chair. "No, we are Kethvar. We do not retreat from prey." But even as she said it, she could feel something she had never experienced before: doubt. For the first time in her long life as a hunter, she was starting to understand what it felt like to be hunted. On Earth's surface, the resistance had evolved into something much more dangerous. What had started as desperate survivors fighting for their lives had become a coordinated military force with one clear goal: find every alien in the solar system and destroy them. Private Soyon, now promoted to lieutenant, led a team of scouts tracking alien survivors through the ruins of Tokyo. These weren't hunting missions anymore, they were extermination operations. The humans had learned to be thorough. "Contact 2 clicks north," reported her forward observer. "Looks like a single alien, possibly wounded." "Move to intercept," Soyon ordered. "Remember, no survivors unless they surrender for questioning." The hunt was methodical and efficient. The human team surrounded the alien using tactics they had learned from months of fighting. When the creature tried to phase away, electromagnetic traps forced it solid. When it tried to fight, coordinated fire from multiple directions brought it down. As the alien died, Soyon felt something she hadn't expected: pity. Not for the creature itself, but for what it represented. The Kethvar had been apex predators for so long that they had forgotten how to adapt, how to evolve, how to survive when the tables turned. Humans, on the other hand, had been evolving their entire existence. And now they were evolving into something the galaxy had never seen before: prey species that had learned to become the ultimate hunters. The war was far from over, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The hunters had become the hunted, and they were losing. The final battle came on a cold morning in London's ruins. Commander Seung-ho stepped carefully through the rubble of what used to be Parliament, his hybrid weapon humming with contained energy. Behind him, 50 of humanity's best soldiers moved like ghosts through the destroyed streets. They had learned well from their former hunters. "Target confirmed," whispered Corporal Kyung through the radio. "Captain Vexithara, alone in the underground bunker. Looks like she's trying to repair some kind of communication device." Seung-ho nodded. They had been tracking the alien commander for 3 weeks, ever since her ship crashed in the Thames. She was the last of her kind in the solar system, the final predator in a hunt that had lasted almost a year. "All teams, move in," he ordered. "Remember, we want her alive if possible. She has information we need." The human soldiers descended into the London Underground with practiced precision. These tunnels had become humanity's fortress during the darkest days of the invasion. Now, they were a trap for the creature that had started it all. Vexithara looked up as electromagnetic generators hummed to life around her position. The air crackled with energy that made her skin burn and her phasing abilities useless. She was trapped in solid form, just like prey should be. "Surrender, and you live," Seung-ho called out as he emerged from the shadows, his weapon trained on her. "Fight, and you die here in the dark like your warriors." The alien commander stood slowly, her wounds from the crash still bleeding that strange, dark liquid. For the first time since arriving at Earth, she looked defeated. Her elongated form seemed smaller somehow, less threatening than it had when humans first saw her kind dropping from the sky. "You are making a mistake," she said in broken English that she had learned from captured human transmissions. "My people will come looking for me." Seung-ho almost laughed. "Your people? We've been monitoring your communications for months. Your home fleet thinks you're dead. They've written off this entire sector as a loss. It was true. The HFY High Command had declared the human hunting ground a temporary setback and moved on to easier prey. In their arrogance, they had abandoned their greatest warrior without even trying to rescue her. Besides, Sung-ho continued, we're not planning to wait for them to come to us. Dr. Yunji stepped forward with a translation device, her months of studying alien language finally paying off. Tell her about the ships, Commander. Sung-ho smiled grimly. 27 vessels, Captain. Human crews with hybrid technology, heading toward your home system as we speak. We learned a lot from your ships, including how to find your world. Vexithara's alien features showed something humans had never seen before, pure terror. Impossible. Your species lacks the knowledge for deep space travel. Had, Sung-ho corrected, past tense. We had a lot of problems until you showed up and gave us all the solutions. Your technology, your star charts, your communication frequencies. We've been very grateful students. Admiral Ji-yeon's voice crackled through Sung-ho's earpiece from orbit. Commander, the final launch window is opening. Are you ready? Confirmed, Admiral. Begin the operation. Above Earth's atmosphere, the last wave of human ships prepared to depart for the stars. These weren't the crude vessels they had started with, but sleek hybrid craft that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. Each ship carried a crew, trained specifically for one purpose, to hunt HFY on their home territory. Captain Yuna stood on the bridge of her ship, watching Earth fall away below. Navigation set course for the HFY home system, maximum burn. Course laid in, Captain. Estimated travel time 14 months. 14 months to cross the galaxy and bring the war to the creatures who had started it. It seemed impossible, but humans had been doing impossible things for the past year. In the cargo hold, Private Soyeon checked the new weapons one final time. These weren't defensive tools built to protect Earth. These were designed for extermination. Electromagnetic. Bombs that could disable entire alien cities. Weapons that could phase-lock the HFY into solid form permanently. Devices that turned their own technology against them. Think they'll surrender when they see us coming? Asked her partner, loading ammunition that sparkled with alien metals. Soyeon shook her head. Doesn't matter. They had their chance to leave us alone. Back in the London tunnels, Vexithara watched the human ships disappear into the darkness between stars. She understood now what she had unleashed. The HFY had spent millennia as apex predators, hunting species that couldn't fight back effectively. They had never encountered persistence hunters before, creatures that would follow them across the galaxy itself to finish a fight. Your people will receive the same mercy they showed us, Sung-ho told her, as human soldiers secured her restraints. None. But Vexithara was thinking beyond immediate revenge. These humans had done something unprecedented. They had evolved from prey to predator in less than a year. Other species took thousands of years to develop space travel. Humans had done it in months by stealing and improving alien technology. You do not understand what you are becoming, she said quietly. Enlighten me, Sung-ho replied. My people, hunted for sport, for tradition. You hunt for survival, for vengeance. You are becoming something much worse than we ever were. Dr. Ariam listened to this exchange from the monitoring station above. The alien was right, and everyone knew it. Humanity had changed during the war. They had learned to be efficient killers, to think like predators, to show no mercy to enemies. The question was whether they could control what they had become. Admiral, she spoke into her communicator, perhaps we should consider— No, came Ji-yeon's firm reply. They chose to hunt us. Now they get to learn what it feels like to be prey in a universe full of something much more dangerous than they ever were. The last human ship disappeared into hyperspace, carrying humanity toward a destiny they had never planned, but could no longer avoid. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, other species detected the energy signatures of the departing fleet and wondered what new power was emerging from the small blue planet. Word spread through galactic communication networks. The hunters from Earth were coming. Species that had lived in fear of the HFY for millennia began to hope. Maybe finally someone could put an end to the terror, but more thoughtful observers worried about what would happen after the HFY were gone. These humans had proven they could learn, adapt, and overcome any challenge. They had turned from prey to predator in months. What would they become next? In her cell beneath London, Vexithara listened to reports from her people's home system. The HFY High Command was dismissing human ships as a minor threat, probably just a revenge mission that would burn itself out against their superior defenses. She knew better. She had watched humans fight, seen how they learned from every mistake, adapted to every challenge. The HFY had made the same error with humans that they made with all their prey. They had assumed the hunt would be easy. By the time they realized their mistake, it would be far too late. The galaxy's former apex predators were about to discover what happened when persistence hunters decided you were prey. The age of the HFY was ending. The age of humanity was just beginning, and the universe would never be the same.